This is 1020s, a podcast from 1020 Marketing. 10 episodes, 20 minutes each. Because meaningful marketing gets to the point.
Welcome again to 1020s. I am Bev.
And I'm Mark. Hey, Bev.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
Pretty okay. How are you?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Thank God today is Wednesday. That's all I'm going to say right now.
I understand. I fully understand. I'm just a little distracted by like half my hair being out of frame, but don't worry about that right now. That's fine.
I have no concerns. I have all of my hair in frame and even all of my non-hair in frame. So
as long as some of us have our hair in frame, I think it's fine.
Yeah, good. I think we spent too much time of our 20 minutes talking about our hair. Let's go.
Okay, let's get to the point. Okay. So this week we're chatting about music in marketing, which I'm really excited about. And we have another guest, and his name is Micah Rakoff-Bellman. He's, first of all, he's a copywriter like us. He's based in Ottawa.
Like him already.
Yeah. He's also secretly my cousin, but we don't, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
This is the nepotism episode.
The nepisode?
The
nepisode.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's a copywriter, but he also, something interesting about him is that he comes from an industrial design background. Mm-hmm. So the way he came to be in this place is really interesting to me. But the most important part for me is he's an extraordinarily talented musician, and he's incorporated some music in some of his ad work. Anyway, let's let him in.
Let's let him in. Here we go. Hello.
Welcome, Micah.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Get to meet a fellow copywriter from Ottawa.
Well, not originally, but now for sure.
Yeah, I'm not there anymore, but I was when I started my career. So we have that in common.
So what I am most excited to talk to you about today is how music and marketing kind of overlap. I'd love to hear first about the path or varying paths that brought you to where you are today as a copywriter.
Yeah. Well, growing up, I had some pretty potent rock star pipe dreams. I wanted nothing more at the end of high school to just hit the road and start a band and do that whole thing. But that wasn't really allowed. And so I was pushed to sort of go to university and choose, arts or science. And that felt like I was being asked to cut off an arm or cut off a leg, because I'd always had an interest in both. And I'd always made things and been a creative person. And so I found the industrial design program at Carleton University, where I ended up. And it was kind of a catch-all because it had a bit of both, and it had sort of a grounding in making things. And really what I learned there was creative problem solving and how to bring something from a problem or an idea or a thought from that fuzzy front end through the refining process into something that really works for people and does something for people. And at the end of all that, I realized I didn't want to make more plastic for the ocean. For my internship, I ended up at a creative agency, and everything kind of clicked together there. And I got to collaborate with all kinds of different people. And every time I sort of ended up back in that space, a marketing or advertising agency, I felt really at home. I felt like I could think, and all sorts of skills that I'd kind of taken for granted as a kid kind of came to the forefront and became a bit of a superpower. But it was I found myself at one point going, oh, I like my writing job. And then it was like, yeah, you idiot. Of course you like your writing job. You've always written, and your whole family writes. It's the family business, and it's just always something you've done. Like, why did it take you so long? Why did you have to rebel so hard against it? But
so how did you marry your music in with your writing?
I think the two are sort of inextricably linked. I've always been a songwriter, I think, and it's kind of just an extension of the same medium into a different one. It's about planning and trying to make people feel something and take people on a journey or give somebody a shared experience.
It's such an interesting concept to be able to write and create music, because, you know, Bev and I can, you know, our experiences going into a studio and working with musicians and trying to convey your idea to them is sometimes tricky. You know, you have thoughts, but you don't understand music that you're trying to convey to a musician who is trying to convey your thoughts into music, but you can do it in one, you know, in one process. It's pretty cool.
I guess so. It's not something again, it's another one of those things I've sort of taken for granted, but yeah, there's no translation barrier. And often you know, when I'm writing something for an ad or for anything, I'm hearing how it sounds also, and sort of working that into the delivery and the overall vibe.
That's pretty cool.
I would say, yeah, music, nobody talks about it as often as maybe they should, because it's so prevalent in advertising, but like music is such a huge part of ads. Like when you think about jingles, like when you were little and you heard jingles and you remember them still, even though you don't want to remember them still, but sometimes you wake up in the morning and you hear it and you're like, why do I hear this jingle? It's like, it's so powerful, the connection, like the messaging with the music. And I'm really fascinated by that overlap, I think.
Did you ever have the opportunity to write a jingle?
Yeah. In my career in advertising, there's been a couple of moments where something almost got through, but, you know, fell victim to some level of one person in a chain of people deciding it was too much.
Yes.
I never had the opportunity to write a jingle, but I had an opportunity quite a bit to choose or create music that would serve as the bed for an ad, right? And I think, you know, each have their sort of challenges, but to find a bed of music or create a bed of music that actually conveys a feeling behind the story that I just blocked the camera, behind the story that you're telling in the ad, is like, there's such a delicate balance there to get that right.
Absolutely. It's there's a lot of fun to be had in that exercise in trying to find the right thing, because sometimes the quickest way there is finding the absolute wrong thing. You know,
I like that.
I was watching that very famous IKEA ad where they personify the lamp being thrown in the trash because it's the old
so good.
And the lamp is so sad. And I was thinking about it in the context of this. So much of what makes you think, oh God, this is sad, is the music. Because without it, it's just footage of a lamp on the curb. And it could be completely different tonally with different music.
100%. I would say too, like one of the funnest things for me was trying to think of what song I wanted to be the backdrop of the ad I was writing. Like that was one of the most enjoyable things. And because you have, and you become attached to this feeling that you want to convey. Yeah. And then I have like a list of songs, honestly, it's still probably somewhere where I'm like, I want to work this into a commercial one day. It's just one of those things. It's so satisfying.
Totally.
There was another point to all of that. Like we used to do a lot of radio spots, and I used to sit, you know, for hours at a time trying to find the right voice, right? To, you know, come into the studio and deliver the script. But you got to also find the voice that matches the music that you're trying to put together there. Do you ever have any struggles with that?
I think the toughest part is, again, that you sort of touched on this earlier, that you're trying to convey an idea in a different language. And if the person, you know, if your creative director has a different idea in their head of what it's supposed to sound like or what it's supposed to feel like, and you're looking at the same words and the same visuals for this brand or campaign, but you're hearing something different, sometimes that gets lost in translation. And so there's a lot of time spent, you know, scrolling through royalty-free music and listening. Is that it? Is that it? I don't know. It's a little cheesy. I'm not sure. Well, that could work, but maybe not. And it's very easy to overthink it.
I say it's like the eye doctor, where you have like these three options that are similar, and they're like, is it number one better, number two, or number three? And they're so similar, but one is right and one is not, and you just gotta, I always think about that.
That's a
I don't
great
know why.
analogy. No, it makes a lot of sense. Like there's so much nuance in sound, right? In music.
Yeah.
There's something that could feel so right and something that could be very close, but feel so wrong from it.
Yeah.
And at the eye doctor also, sometimes it feels like it's not which one is right, but which one is the least wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, the edges are more blurry here, but the center is a little more saturated now. And what am I looking for? I don't know. I'm not an eye doctor.
I like that we all have glasses, so we all understand very
The
well
analogy.
this analogy. That makes me happy.
Micah, let me ask you a question. So do you find, I don't know what career path you've gone. I imagine a lot of your work was more traditional copywriting for some of the brands based on what I saw of your work, but did you do a lot of social stuff?
For sure. I've just, I think based on, when I entered the workforce, I think that's been a huge requirement.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Do you find that from a content standpoint, a difference between creating for social versus creating for TV or radio or other other mediums?
Good question.
Yeah, yes and no. I think there's a certain expectation, well, for all those channels really, that of a way it's supposed to feel or sound, but because the whole world kind of moves at the pace of social media now, that cultural sort of element and I guess vibe again carries over. And so really the goal is to make people feel something, to entertain them, to make them laugh, to get them to understand something. Copywriting is just, how can we do that as effectively as
In the
possible?
medium.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The reason why I asked that question is more from a production standpoint, because on social, you're generally, more reactive. You're pumping out a little bit more content than you would. You're not making 8 radio spots for a client every month, right? Like, or whatever the number is. You're pumping out more content. And how does that affect like how you make things come across via sound? I mean, there's got to be budget limitations. There's got to be, the challenge of finding the right piece of royalty-free music that, not everybody in the world is using at that moment.
Sure.
Like those kinds of things to me are, not constraints, but certainly considerations as you put together your content flow.
Yeah, absolutely. When we make stuff for a campaign, there's a couple of higher budget pieces. So we'll do a longer format video that gets cut up into a few shorter format videos. And then the audio from that gets recycled into Spotify ads, or the audio for the video, or the audio for a radio ad. Ultimately, if you're dealing with a specific target audience that is on social, you try to kind of chop it up to work as hard as it can for you across mediums, across channels.
It feels like now social and like the quickness of everything, time is splintered, and it's kind of like the storytelling becomes splintered also in a way. And it's like you only have a very, very finite amount of time in which to capture somebody, because they're not going to stick around after however many seconds at this point. It's weird the way that storytelling kind of becomes fractured.
Well, and it's almost like, the fact that there's something new, just a swipe away every time means you almost have to rely on, your media strategy team to ensure that people are going to see it again or see the next version, so that even though the story is fragmented, they're getting tastes of it and it becomes recognizable, or it becomes a story by virtue of becoming part of something bigger and sort of defining it itself as, a campaign brand across all the media, as opposed to just spot by spot.
For sure.
So Bev made me promise to ask you about your 24-hour albums. Can you explain this concept to me and tell us a little bit about what those are?
Sure. I think we found it. There's something called crap art projects somewhere on the internet where they propose you from scratch write and record and release a full album in 24 hours. And they had some rules that we kind of adapted. What ended up happening was I was home for a New Year's Day party in my neighborhood, and two of my old buddies from elementary school said, "Hey, we're thinking we're gonna do this today." And I kind of glommed on and said, "Hey, can I join you? That sounds really fun." And now we've just released our sixth 24-hour album. But it's arguably the coolest thing about any of us that we take part in.
Hold on a second. You spend 24 hours to write the lyrics, put the music to it, create the song, and you do that 10 times in 24 hours.
And usually we sleep a little because we're not, completely insane. But yeah, it's
only
incredible.
mildly.
It's quite a rush. It's both, an intense creative effort to birth something new and a real push, and it's kind of exhausting and a very disruptive process to be around. Like we make sure the houses are empty because it's a lot to impose on anyone. But after a day, we have something like you get that instant gratification out of it also, because you have this piece of art that's completely new to you also, and it's so fresh and exciting. And it's clear that some of the songs are written and thoughtful and pieced together, and some of the songs are, oh, they were up way too late. This is nonsense. Wow. It's really clear that this was just okay, get it down, great, done, awesome. As you get closer to now in the catalog, there's still a strong thread of nonsense and silliness, but it's almost more baked in, where even the silly ones are still kind of serious and well put together.
You're gonna have to give us the link so that we can share it when we post this.
Can I just say one of my favorite parts of your most recent album, or maybe it's not your most recent because I know you just did one. You created some pretend ads, some pretend radio ads for fruit on the bottom, vegetable on the top, yogurt. And I'm obsessed with them. We'll play them on here too. We'll stitch them in, or one of them in, but it's very enjoyable.
Thank you. It's we decided, we've been at it a while, so we deserved a fake sponsor.
Yeah, you do.
What was really happening was that album was going really well. We were just really cooking and things were moving, and we had enough time to throw in a flight of ads. We came up with this notion of fruit bottom, vegetable top yogurt. So what if the motivation for eating the vegetables at the top was reaching the fruit at the bottom?
That's awesome.
It's like a metaphor for life. Eat the vegetables. You can get right to the fruit later, but you got to eat the vegetables on the top first. You see, I'm finding meaning.
At Astro, we've been making delicious Balkan yogurt for 5 generations. So if there's one thing we understand, it's kids. We know it can be a struggle to get kids to eat their vegetables, so we're proud to introduce our latest product, Astro Fruit Bottom Vegetable Top Yogurt. Try all 3 intriguing flavors: broccoli strawberry, carrot raspberry, and eggplant peach.
It's Astro fruit at the bottom and vegetables at the top.
This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time for us.
It's been a lot of fun for me also.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Really nice.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
All
nice
right,
to meet
take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Love that guy.
Yeah, what a guy. Honestly, that was really fun.
He's so funny.
He is. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you know his family, he comes from a family of characters as well. So none of this surprises me, but he's his own person. And I just love what he's and done. And
so that's episode number 3 in the books.
Yeah.
So that's been fun.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Bev.
Okay. Bye, Mark.